Good afternoon, fifth graders. I am so glad you joined us back today for our lesson. We're almost done with our schoolwork, getting ready for the summer, but we still have 2 more lessons to do. Today, again, we're going to start with demonstrating understanding of figurative language, word relationships, and nuances in word meanings. And that's what we're dealing with, the nuances in the meanings. How does understanding homophones and homographs help me understand the meaning? If you don't know what the word is, you don't know how it's used correctly, you will use it incorrectly, and that will be a big mistake, especially in your writing if you have to write for an application or something. Okay, so I want to look at this, the homophones. Remember, now those are words that sound alike, but they're spelled different and they have different meanings. Let's look at these 2 sentences. There are 3 things wrong with these sentences. Raise your hand when you see them. So I want you to look for a minute. Read that sentence again. There are 3 things wrong with these sentences. Raise your hand when you see them. I'm sure a lot of you maybe have caught the last one. But did anybody catch the first one? There. There should have been location. There are 3 things wrong with these sentences. Okay, did you catch the second one? Yes, your. Raise your hand. You own your hand. So this shows possession. Okay, when you see them. And I bet many of you caught the see them. It should be see, S-E-E. Okay, very good. All right, I want to go back. I want to read this. I want you to think back to last week. We talked about 2, 2, and 2. Geraldine goes to the circus. She gives 2 peanuts to the elephants. The baby elephant wants some peanuts too. Geraldine gives the 2 elephants a whole bag of peanuts. Oops, that was too many. So how many elephants were in the passage? Was it 2, 2, or 2? Yes, it was 2. Very good. Let's look at this one. The astronomers bit their fingernails. Somewhere out there in the great dark sky, the aliens are approaching. Their ships would come into view any minute. Finally, one astronomer pointed to the east and shouted, "They're coming!" Blank, they are. What goes in the blank? Is it there? Is it there? Or is it there? Which one? Very good. It is there. Good job. Okay, so I want to look at some more homophones. We have by, and of course by, and by. Then we have your and your. Well, what's the difference? What do these 3 bys mean? What do these 2 yours mean? Well, the first by means close to, like I'm by the monitor. The second by is short for goodbye, see you later. And the third by means to purchase, like I'm going to go and buy some groceries after work. Okay, so what about your and your? What's the difference? I already talked about that a little bit earlier, but let's look at the first your. Do you know what that is? Do you see anything in that that gives you an idea of what this your is? The apostrophe, it obviously is a contraction for something. It's a contraction for you are. Kind of like when we looked at there, T-H-E-Y apostrophe R-E. That was the contraction for they are. Okay? So the second your, what is it? What does it mean? Yes, it is possessive, meaning that it belongs to you. A lot of times when we talk about possessives, it's usually when you add the apostrophe S or you add just the apostrophe to the S so that you know that that belongs to somebody. So, but there's some words that doesn't work with, like your. That means that belongs to you. Okay? So let's look at them in sentences. All right? We're going to use these first sentences with by, and by. Okay? Tomorrow was the first day of 6th grade. and my mom was taking my brother and me shopping for new clothes. She said we could each, it's going to be buy, but which buy, 2 new outfits and 2 pairs of shoes. So which buy goes in there? Are we going to be next to it? Are we going to be saying buy to it? Or are we going to purchase it? We're going to purchase it. So it is the B-U-Y. Very good. Let's look at this next sentence. We left my dad reading the newspaper. Bye, Dad. He waved to us as we walked by him and out the door. Well, what bye goes in those 2 blanks? Is it the same bye? Or is it 2 different byes? Which one would go in the first one? If I'm leaving, what am I going to say to somebody? Yes, I'm going to say bye. And then my next one would be I'd be next to him as I walked next to him out the door. Okay, very good. So let's look at these sentences with your and your. School was out for summer. Finally, here's blank backpack, I said to my best friend Shannon. Blank not going to have much use for it for 3 months though. So what's your goes in that first one? Here's your backpack. Is it you are, or do I own the backpack? I own it. So it's your backpack. And the next one would be you are not going to have much use for it for next 3 months though. Can you tell the theme here? We're moving on to 6th grade and we're getting ready for the summer. Okay. All right, so let's move on to reading. Now, Monday when we talked, we were dealing with this again. Draw evidence from literary informational text to support analysis, reflection, and research. Text-dependent questions about literature and informational text. And the essential question was, how can I use evidence to support my purpose? Okay, we left off with our race analogy or anagram. So I want to kind of go back and visit it and finish our E, okay? So what is text evidence? You need text evidence when you're answering text-dependent questions, right? The question is totally dependent on what was in the text. So remember, what was text? What is text? We talked about it Monday. We've talked about it in weeks past. We all do it. We text our moms. We text our dads. We text our friends. It is written work. Okay? That's all text is. It's written work, things that are written. Okay? What is evidence? You think back to your crime shows you've watched. Evidence is proof. Okay? If you're going to prove something to somebody, you've got to have evidence to show them what they're doing. Okay? What you're doing. What backs up what you have to say. Okay? So text evidence together is citing proof in the text. I'm going back to the text. I'm citing what it says there to prove my answer. Okay? I cannot say that I think that it's raining outside if I don't have any proof. Okay? So, how to provide text evidence. We talked about it, race, and I told you that was an anagram. That race stood for something. R was for restate the question. A was for answer the question using your prior knowledge and your inference. C was to cite evidence in the text to support your thoughts and your opinions. And E was explain your answer with evidence. Okay? That's the big one. Explain what that evidence means. Okay? So let's look at explain. Explain your answer by quoting the author or paraphrasing. Okay, so what does that mean? If I'm quoting my author, what am I doing? I'm saying that the author said in such and such paragraph, and I'm using quotation marks. I'm using exactly what they said. Okay? So quoting, the author says, and you see I have my 2 quotation marks because I open it with one and I close it with one. Or the text states, and again, I use quotation marks. Okay? Paraphrasing. Do you see the difference between the author says under quoting and the author explains under paraphrasing? Do you see the difference? Do you notice anything? What about this? The text shows. So those kind of sound the same, but do you notice the difference? It'd be the quotes. What would go under the quoting in between the quotation marks would be exactly, verbatim, word for word, what was in the passage. Okay? If I paraphrase it, I'm going to put it in my words. I'm going to own those words. I'm going to restate it in a way that I understand it, that it made sense to me, and that maybe could make you understand it. Okay? So that's the difference between quoting and paraphrasing. I tell my children that when we first start doing this, to really just quote it. Give it to me verbatim what the passage said, because that's the easiest. Going back in the passage and seeing that she has on red pants is very easy, and writing that. Inferring that she had on red pants by knowing that her blouse matched her pants and that her blouse also matched the stripes in the flag. Okay, well, I'm going to infer that she has on red pants. Okay, that takes a little more. All right, so if I quote it, that's a lot more. That's easier. So paraphrasing, putting what the author has said in your own words, it makes you think about what you read, and you will comprehend the text better. After you've had more experience, paraphrasing is good. Okay, so let's look. My dad and his friends are having a fantasy football draft. They each draft players and form their own teams. They follow their team players throughout the season and get points for different victories. At the end of the year, the person with the most points wins the prize. They have fun drafting players on their teams. Okay? So, the author explains that her dad has fun drafting a fantasy football team with his friends. They keep track of points each team earns, and they award a winner at the end of the season. I paraphrased what I just read. Okay? So, the same paragraph, how do you determine the winner? Well, we get points for different victories. At the end of the year, the person with the most points wins the prize. So, the author explains, I'm not quoting, because if I were to quote, I would say the author states, but I said the author explains that they keep up with points each team earns, and the winner is who has the most points at the end of the year. Okay? So, now we're going to look at a passage, and we're going to read it, and then we're going to answer some questions about it. Now remember, race. Restate the answer. Restate the question, answer the question, cite evidence, and explain. So I need you to pay attention to our passage that we're going to read. All right? Uncommon sense. What does that title make you think? What is that title? Uncommon, and then sense. It's a play on our homophones again. What kind of sense am I talking about? C-E-N-T-S. What sense is that? That's money. Okay, but we have this phrase, oh, well, that's just common sense. Well, we're not talking about money, we're talking about sense. Well, this is uncommon sense, but in this C-E-N-T, that's money. So this passage is going to be about maybe different kinds of money, maybe, or something that's not very common. Let's read and find out, okay? Diamond Destiny 2 was coming out next Friday. Caitlin checked her savings twice, hoping by some miracle she was wrong. She was $10 short. Hey, Dad, she said at the dinner table that evening, have any chores I could do for money? I'll clean the barbecue grill. It's clean, Dad said. I can cut the lawn, Caitlin offered. No mowing this time of year. Grass doesn't grow when it's cold. It's dormant, Dad said. Ugh. I need to earn $10 more to buy the new Diamond Dynasty video game. I have a task you could help me with, said Grandpa Joe. He was temporarily living with them while he recovered from a broken wrist. Caitlin secretly hoped he would stay forever, even once his cast was off. With my left hand out of commission, I could sure use an assistant numismatist. A what? Is that like a magician's assistant? Caitlin asked. Numismatist is a fancy word for someone who collects coins, explained Dad. You come from a long line of numismatists, said Grandpa. Your great-great-grandma started the Foster family penny collection. She passed down the tradition to my dad, who then passed it down to me. Never have been able to interest your dad in it, though. I lost my spot. Oh, there we are. Unfortunately, Pops, I didn't inherit your eagle eye for detail, Dad said, pushing up his thick glasses. But I did put up your box of rolled pennies. I did pick up your box from rolled pennies from the bank today. They're on the den coffee table. What about you, Caitlin? Said Grandpa. Think you have an eye for sorting pennies? My eyesight's 20/20, bragged Caitlin, and I usually win when I play I Spy. You're hired, said Grandpa. After dinner, Caitlin followed Grandpa Joe into the den. As for your wages, I'll pay you $1 for every 3 rolls we sort. Plus, you can keep any good pennies you find. Grandpa Joe opened the box. You can keep the pennies, Grandpa. It's not like the olden days when a penny could actually buy something. It would take 1,000 pennies to add up to $10. Caitlin wasn't about to count out that many pennies on the checkout counter of the video game store, let alone lug a heavy sack of them all the way there. You might be surprised, Grandpa handed a roll of pennies to Caitlin to peel off the paper. Some pennies can be worth a lot. Really? So what am I looking for? Super old ones? Caitlin spread the pennies out on the coffee table. Some pennies were gleaming copper, while others had dulled to a shineless brown. Age can be a factor, but not all pennies are valuable. What I like to look for are mistakes, said Grandpa. If a penny looks funny in any way, show it to me. Mistakes are good? Asked Caitlin, surprised. Very good, said Grandpa. I have one 1992 penny where the A and the M in the word America are practically touching at the bottom. It's my most valuable coin, worth about $500. Wow, that could buy a lot of video games, Caitlin thought. Caitlin continued opening rolls for both of them. For a while, they sorted in silence, except for the clacking of pennies against the table. Then Caitlin found a penny that was very different looking. Look at this one, Grandpa, said Caitlin. Lincoln's not even on it. That's a mistake, right? Grandpa held the penny close and looked at it carefully. Well, it's not a mistake, but it is very old. You found what we call an Indian head penny, dated 1883, yet barely worn at all, worth at least $10. So I guess you're done, Grandpa sighed. Done? Why would I be done? Said Caitlin. You have enough to buy your video game. Grandpa dropped the penny on her palm. Caitlin closed her fingers around Grandpa's good hand. I'm not going to sell it for $10, Grandpa. It's worth much more than that. Sorry, kiddo. As I explained, just because it's old doesn't mean it's worth more. I know that, Grandpa. Caitlin squeezed her grandpa's hand. It's not valuable because of its age. It's priceless because it's the first special penny I found with you. It might take longer to earn enough to buy the video game she wanted, but to Caitlin, it was worth it. Okay? How many of you are going to go dig through your mama's purses and look for pennies now and see if you can't find something old or a mistake or something. I know my husband likes to look at coins too, but I found that kind of interesting. Okay, but let's think about it. We have some questions. We need to remember what are the four letters that we need to remember when we answer questions? Yes, R, A, C, E. Okay, so our first question. Based on evidence from the story, how might Caitlin feel if Grandpa Joe moved in with her family permanently? Support your answer. So we have to restate this question, and we have to answer it. Okay? Then we're going to cite evidence. All right? Caitlin would be happy if Grandpa Joe moved in with her family permanently. That's restating, and that's answering. Now, what's my evidence? In the beginning of the story, the author states, Caitlin secretly hoped he would stay forever, even once his cast was off. That's my citing. Now, what does that evidence mean? I know that if I secretly wanted someone to stay and they stayed, I would be happy. So do you see how we restated the question, we answered it, and I cited. Now, how did I cite? Did I paraphrase or did I quote? Who can tell me? What do you see? What's going to be my hint for whether I quoted or paraphrased? Yes, it has the quotation marks about halfway down where it says, Caitlin secretly hoped he would stay forever. That came straight out of the passage, so that is a quote. Let's look at this next question. How does Caitlin's motivation for assisting her Grandpa Joe change in the story? Support your answer with evidence. Well, first thing, I kind of need to understand what the question's asking me. Do I know what motivation is? How does Caitlin's motivation for assisting her Grandpa Joe change? Okay, what made her want to assist him? Well, what drove her in the beginning of the story? She wanted to buy that video game, didn't she? And then what happened at the end of the story? Yes, it was just fun spending time with her grandfather and finding out and learning new things. So let's see if we can put that into an answer. Caitlin's motivation for helping her Grandpa Joe changed from just wanting to earn money to enjoying spending time with him. Okay, that's restating the question, and it's answering. 9 times out of 10, those two, the R and the A, are going to go in the same sentence. Okay? Then I have to cite and prove it. In the beginning of the story, Caitlin is looking, you'll see our checklist in a second. I should go back and change that. Looking for a way to earn money to buy a video game. At the end of the story, she finds a coin that Grandpa feels is worth the $10 Caitlin needs. In the next to last paragraph, she says that the penny is priceless because it was the first special penny that she found with him. That proves to me it's not just for money anymore. So, did I quote? I didn't. I paraphrased. I put it in my words, what I understood happening in the story. Okay? So let's look at this. Mobile County, every teacher should have one of these. I have them in my room. But they came up with a writer's checklist. And this is what you need to do after you write anything. Okay? You need to ask yourself these questions. It's kind of like a rubric. I know your teachers probably give you rubrics when you have to write your papers. Okay? So, did you address all parts of the writing task? Okay? Did you include evidence from the text to support your ideas in your essay? Although those weren't essays, those were just paragraphs. Okay? But this goes down to just your simplest short answer. Did you stay organized and focused on the writing task? The writing task was answering the question. Did you stay focused on that? Did you use correct language? Variety of sentences. Don't make it boring. Make it entertaining. Make it short, long, compound, complex. And did your paragraph transition? Okay. Did you correct errors in capitalization, spelling? See, Miss Hicks didn't reread that thing and she left look instead of looking. I should have reread it. Mistakes happen. Sentence formation, punctuation, and word choice. I reread the essay to make sure it was clear and well organized. Always, guys, reread what you've written. Okay? We have one more lesson on Monday, so y'all come back and maybe we'll read a little informational text. Maybe we'll read a story. I don't know. But y'all come back and let's have one more day of fun. See you next week.